Hello, dear YouTube viewers. I hope you're doing well. Okays, let's start our video. The afternoon sun poured its gentle warmth over the quiet suburban town, casting long golden rays across the park. Children's laughter mingled with the soft creak of swings, the thump of basketballs on pavement, and the occasional bark of an excited dog. Parents sat scattered on benches, chatting idly, sipping coffee, and keeping half an eye on their little ones. The park was alive but peaceful, the kind of place that seemed untouched by trouble. Ethan Cole strolled in with his 10-year-old son, Noah, the two carrying the easy rhythm of a father and son who enjoyed each other's company. In his early 40s, Ethan carried himself with the quiet discipline of someone who had faced far harsher days than this. Years in the Army had left their mark, not just in the medals folded away in a box at home, but in the way his eyes scanned a place instinctively, cataloging people and movements without conscious thought. Widowed for 3 years, he had learned to balance working part-time as a mechanic with raising Noah alone, keeping his life simple and his head down. Still, some habits never faded. As they crossed the playground toward the walking trail, Ethan's gaze caught on a group of boys near the swings. They were older, 13, maybe 14, and carried themselves with that restless energy that often tipped toward trouble. They shoved each other, not playfully, but with an edge. Their eyes darted toward smaller kids nearby, sizing them up. One boy stood out, taller than the rest, with a smirk that came too easily and too often. Chad. Ethan didn't know him, but he knew the type. Noah noticed his father's expression and glanced over. "Problem?" he asked quietly. Ethan's lips tightened into the faintest of smiles. "Not our business, unless it becomes our business." Two small figures caught Ethan's attention near the far edge of the playground. Identical twin girls, no more than 9 years old, their matching pastel dresses fluttering lightly in the spring breeze. They were crouched over a square of hopscotch chalked into the pavement, giggling softly as they took turns tossing a small stone. Nobody else seemed to be playing with them, and it was clear they were new faces here. A woman, presumably their nanny, stood a short distance away, absorbed in an animated phone call, her back half turned toward the girls. Ethan's eyes shifted when movement stirred from the swing set. Chad and 2 of his friends were heading straight for the twins. He saw the boys' smirks before he heard their voices, the mocking tone cutting through the hum of the park. "Nice dresses," one jeered. "Did your mommy pick them out for you?" Another snatched at their chalk. When the girls tried to step away, Chad shoved one hard enough to make her stumble. Her sister rushed forward protectively, only to be pushed back even harder. Before Ethan's mind could weigh the choice, his body was already in motion. Years of training had burned the instinct deep into him. In 3 long strides, he was there, stepping between the older boys and the frightened twins. His voice was calm, low, and edged with steel. "That's enough. You've got 2 seconds to walk away." Chad tried to sneer, but Ethan's unwavering gaze stripped away the bravado. Muttering under his breath, he backed off with his friends. The twins clung to each other, wide-eyed but unharmed. The nanny, suddenly aware, hurried over, stammering apologies. Ethan simply nodded. "Keep a closer eye on them." Without waiting for a reply, he turned and walked back to Noah. From a shaded bench on the far side of the park, a young woman in a neat business suit had been quietly scrolling through her phone during her lunch break. When the commotion started near the hopscotch squares, she instinctively raised her camera, recording the exchange from the first shove to the moment the older boys slunk away. The camera caught Ethan's calm authority, the girl's fear melting into relief, and the swift, decisive way he handled it without raising his voice. She didn't need to zoom in to know who the twins were: Lily and Emma Hayes, daughters of her boss, Victoria Hayes, CEO of Hayes Tech. She tapped out a quick message: "Your girls are safe. You need to see this." Then she attached the video and hit send. Before leaving, the twins shyly made their way over to Ethan and Noah. Their voices were soft but sincere as they thanked him. One of them reached into her pocket and pulled out a braided bracelet made of colorful threads. "We made it together," she said. "You can have it." Ethan accepted it with a small smile, slipping it into his palm without fuss. He didn't think much of it. To him, it was just a kind gesture from 2 grateful kids. Hours later, far above the city in a sleek, glass-walled corner office, Victoria Hayes watched the video on her tablet. Her reputation as a sharp, relentless leader in the tech industry didn't soften the tight line of her jaw as she saw her daughters pushed. She ended the call she'd been on and dialed the nanny, her tone icy. The reprimand was swift, but her mind lingered not on the nanny, but on the man in the video. There was something in the way he moved, steady, controlled, unshaken. That felt familiar. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Chad recounted the event to his father, Councilman Richard Holloway. The man bristled with arrogance, brushing off his son's behavior and focusing instead on the perceived insult. "So nobody thinks he can humiliate my boy. We'll see about that," he growled. That evening, in the modest kitchen of their small home, Ethan and Noah shared a quiet dinner. Noah asked why his father had stepped in when so many adults might have ignored it. Ethan leaned back, his expression thoughtful. He spoke of his years in the army, of friends lost, of the day he'd lost Noah's mother. He told his son that the world didn't get better by looking the other way. "If you can stop something wrong, you do it," he said simply. The handmade bracelet lay in the center of the table, its bright threads standing out against the worn wood. Ethan didn't realize it yet, but that small gift would soon be the thread that connected his life to the powerful woman watching him on a screen miles away. Victoria Hayes wasn't used to uncertainty. In business, when she wanted answers, she got them quickly. The morning after she received the video, she quietly tasked her assistant with finding out who the man was. Within hours, she had a name, an address, and a brief outline of his life. Ethan Cole, Army veteran, widower, mechanic, single father. By early afternoon, her sleek black luxury SUV rolled down a modest neighborhood street, drawing curious glances from neighbors. It stopped in front of a small, well-kept house with a faded porch swing. Ethan was on the driveway, sleeves rolled up, working under the hood of his old pickup. He straightened when the car pulled in, wiping his hands on a rag, his eyes narrowing slightly. Victoria stepped out, every bit the composed executive, though her tone was warmer than her usual boardroom voice. She introduced herself and explained that Lily and Emma were her daughters, the same girls he'd helped yesterday. She thanked him directly, her gaze steady. "I want to repay you," she said, offering either financial help or even a job in her company's security division. Ethan shook his head with quiet firmness. "Ma'am, I didn't do it for a reward, just looking out for kids." At that moment, the back door opened and Noah came bounding out. Right behind him were Lily and Emma, who had tagged along with their mother. The three children fell into easy conversation, chasing a ball across the yard as if they'd known each other for years. Victoria watched them for a moment, something about the scene softening her guarded demeanor. She left soon after, but as her SUV pulled away, she kept glancing in the rearview mirror. She couldn't shake the feeling there was more to Ethan Cole than he let on. 2 days later, Ethan was tightening bolts under the hood of a sedan at the mechanic shop when a shadow fell across the engine bay. Looking up, he found himself face to face with Councilman Richard Holloway. The man's expensive suit and slick back hair looked out of place among grease-stained floors and toolboxes, but his smirk carried the confidence of someone used to throwing his weight around. "I hear you decided to put your hands on my boy," Holloway said, voice low but brimming with hostility. Ethan leaned back, resting the wrench on the fender. "Your boy shoved 2 little girls. I told him to stop. That's all." Holloway stepped closer, jaw tightening. "Boy's roughhouse. You don't get to humiliate him in front of his friends. I can make life hard for you in this town." Ethan's expression didn't change. "If you're defending bullying, then you're part of the problem. Don't excuse it." The councilman's glare lingered before he turned on his heel and left, muttering about nobodies who think they're heroes. That evening, the twins told Victoria what happened. She didn't hesitate. A few quiet calls and the councilman's efforts to tarnish Ethan's reputation fizzled before they even gained traction. Days later, at a school assembly, Lily and Emma spoke proudly about Ethan standing up for them. Parents and teachers applauded, and whispers of admiration began to follow Ethan around town. As weeks passed, Ethan and Victoria crossed paths more often, at school drop-offs, local charity events, and even the grocery store. Their conversations grew easier, shifting from polite thanks to genuine exchanges. She learned about his late wife and the years he spent overseas. He learned about the constant balancing act she faced as a high-profile CEO and a single mother. The simmering tension came to a head when Chad cornered Noah at the park one afternoon, intent on revenge. Ethan arrived just as Chad lunged, stepping between them and ending the confrontation with quiet authority. But this time, a bystander's phone was rolling. Within hours, the clip hit social media, the veteran protecting his son and standing up to a bully, and Ethan Cole's name spread far beyond their quiet town. The second video spread faster than anyone expected. By morning, it was everywhere: news sites, local Facebook groups, and even a few national outlets. Comment sections lit up with outrage toward Councilman Holloway, blasting him for raising a bully while trying to smear the man who had simply protected children. His polished public image cracked under the weight of his own hypocrisy, and community members who once avoided taking sides now spoke openly in Ethan's defense. One evening, Victoria stopped by Ethan's home, her expression softer than he'd ever seen. They sat on the porch as the kids played in the yard, the golden light fading into twilight. She told him that her gratitude went far beyond that day at the park. "You didn't just save my girls," she said quietly. "You showed me there are still people who act because it's right, not because there's something in it for them." She paused, meeting his eyes. "I want you to work for me, head of security at Hayes Tech. Not charity. I'm offering it because there's no one I trust more with my children's lives." Ethan considered her words, the sincerity in her tone clear. For the first time in years, he thought about saying yes. Ethan took the job, finding a way to balance the new responsibilities with being there for Noah. The transition was smooth, made easier by the growing bond between Noah, Lily, and Emma, who now spent weekends together in a tangle of games and laughter. His rapport with Victoria deepened, unspoken hints of something more lingering between them. Months later, they found themselves back at the same park. The children played without a trace of fear, their laughter echoing across the playground. Sitting on a bench, Ethan rested his hands on his knees. Around his wrist, the twins' handmade bracelet still held its place. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please subscribe our channel, American Latest Stories.